do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes. Councillor Sam Smith for us, thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Whiting? And is it somebody's first meeting today? No. No. Okay, thank you. I just have to tell you that my papers have just started scribbling on themselves. I don't know why, but I'll get it sorted in a minute. So, any declarations of interest? No? Okay. So we've got a number of speakers with us this evening. Yes, I'll take a minute. So we're going to have the two external speakers first, and then Jenny Hollingsworth will be doing her portfolio. So although we obviously want to hear and question everyone about what they're doing, can we bear in mind that there are three as we're going through this evening, so that we're not still here tomorrow? That would be good. Okay, so next on the list then are the minutes from the meeting on the 29th of September. Any matters of accuracy? Nope. So do we agree those as a true record? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Pope and Councillor Ellis to second. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Yes, thank you. Any matters arising from the minutes? Can I just check? I know you sent round the presentations afterwards. There were some questions, weren't there, that Councillor McCrossan was going to provide answers to later. Have they come round? They haven't come through yet. Okay, thank you. Okay, so our first speaker today then is a partnership, part of our regular partnership reviews, and we have speakers from the Citizens Advice Bureau, and I am going to let them introduce themselves because I have failed to be able to memorise all these names. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. First hurdle over. Thank you everyone for inviting us along this evening to talk to you about our service and how we support Gedling residents across your area. So my name is Donna Cumberledge. I'm Chief Officer for Citizens Advice in Nottingham and District. And I've got with me Simon Mee, who is our Head of Service Delivery. So he is here as well because he's a lot more technical than I am. So when you start to ask all those difficult questions, then I shall be giving him the wink to come and help me out. So for anybody that's not really aware of Citizens Advice and what we do, we are part of a national network across the country of over 200 local Citizens Advice. So there is the national organisation, but then there's local ones across the country. They have reduced in number over the years. Every year it does go down as more and more sort of merge or unfortunately close. What we do is we give people the knowledge and the confidence to be able to find their way forward. And in an ideal scenario, we are empowering them so that next time with a problem, they know where to go to get information themselves. So things like websites are really, really valuable for people to enable them to perhaps find out information themselves next time. We provide free, confidential and impartial advice, and we are a well-known and trusted organisation. Our service is based in the city. This is our 50th anniversary this year, and we've been supporting residents across the city, Rushcliffe and Gedling. Our main office is in the city, but we have various outreaches, some of them being across Gedling. And we deliver this service with over 100 sort of dedicated, experienced, knowledgeable volunteers and staff. So what we do is free, confidential, impartial advice on a range of areas, including social welfare law, housing, employment and debt. And the debt advice that we provide is regulated under the Financial Conduct Authority. So I thought it was really important to just give a bit of a background in terms of how we're funded to understand how the vital work is that you provide to us. So a lot of our funding comes through funded projects. So the Department of Work and Pension fund our Help to Claim Universal Credit phone line that we support. That's a nationally delivered service by Citizens Advice nationally, and we have a team that work on that. We have funding from the Money and Pension Service that deliver our debt service. And then we have a number of smaller projects like the MS Society, Trussell Trust. So we work with the Trussell Trust Food Bank in Daybrook as well. We also receive funding from yourselves, Rushcliffe Borough Council. And with that funding, we have service delivery agreements as well. So we deliver a set number of clients and financial outcomes to support them. The other type of funding is that core unrestricted funding that is really, really hard to come by. And it's the bit that supports the bigger service, so your central costs, how clients access the service. So the funded projects are fantastic, but if they haven't got a way of getting to the service, it's incredibly difficult. And that's where your core unrestricted funding comes in. So it also helps us with delivering volunteering programs. So we've got over 50 volunteers that support with delivering the whole service. At the moment, our only core funding, unfortunately, does come from Nottinghamshire County Council under the Local Communities Fund, and we've been getting to about just under £25,000 a year to support Gedling and Rushcliffe residents, when that unfortunately ends at the end of next March. The other thing we do is we do fundraising, we support with donations, whether they're from individuals or organisations, and grant applications. So supporting Gedling residents, we've got our telephone line, which is open 5 days a week, called Advice Line. It is incredibly hard for clients to get through because we know that the demand far outweighs the support that we've got available. We deliver face-to-face appointments in the council office here, also in Netherfield. We do get clients from Gedling coming across to Nottingham City Library and accessing the service there. And we deliver a service from the core Calverton. So they're virtual appointments where the clients go and sit in the core centre, and then our volunteers are sat either in the central library with us or in our office in BizSpace. And a number of projects. The other project that I hadn't mentioned was advice on prescription. So we'd run that for about 3 years. That was funded through, sometimes through the NHS, sometimes through sort of some of the health grants. That's unfortunately come to an end now. Just mentioned the Help to Claim service. So that's a national line that anybody can ring in, and it supports people from claiming the universal credit from eligibility right up until they're getting the correct first payment. Last year, that service increased quite significantly for us with the managed migration of people moving over from employment support allowance over to universal credit. So in terms of the support that we provide to Gedling residents funded through yourselves, we have a grant agreement with yourselves for £40,000 a year. And in 24-25, that enabled us to support 794 unique clients with 1,797 issues. And that achieved financial gains of over £440,000. So I'd hope, as perhaps Scrutiny Committee, it looks quite good value for money in terms of the support given, the money going back into your local economy as well for Gedling residents. Our numbers in terms of unique clients never quite match up because we only count a client once. So people sometimes come back. So for example, if they've come to us in January with an issue and then come back 6, 8, 9 months later with something else, we won't count them again, but we will obviously count their issues and their financial gains, but they'll still see, we just see that as one client. Another project that you supported us with last year was the health form. So we received £8,332 through the UK Share Prosperity funding. That allowed us to deliver the project for 27 weeks up until the end of March. And we were able to support 51 clients with 99 issues. We'd identified through the funding that you get from us that one of the key areas that people were struggling with was around health forms and needing support with the personal independence payments. So we put that application in to deliver that as a small project. And again, hugely successful because we were able to get over £140,000 of awards for your residents there. But again, unfortunately, that was just one-off funding that ended in March. In terms of how we generate and sort of prove to our funders the value that we offer, we use a Treasury approved model, and that shows that for every £1 invested, we generate £2.33 in fiscal value. So that's the support to public government, local authorities, £24 1 pence in public value, and £26.11 in value to the people we help. So the return overall there was over £3 million in fiscal value. So what the previous few slides were just in terms of the projects that were funded through Gedling. Through our other projects, we've reached more clients. We've supported 896 clients across the other projects as well, with £1.6 million in financial gains. So that's where the value of some of that core funding really comes in, because it allows us to support people and bring them into other projects as well. This slide here is to demonstrate that when we support people, we provide a holistic approach. So somebody might come to us with just one problem, but through our advice, we identify all the issues because everything is so entwined. So if you look on the right-hand side diagram, where it's PIP, so when somebody's come to us with issues around personal independence payments, it shows that actually they've also got energy issues. They need some crisis support, which could be food bank vouchers, household support from vouchers, support with housing, council tax arrears, rent arrears, homelessness and energy debts. So people very rarely come with one issue. They might think they've come with one issue, but we identify that there's far more to it for them. This is the topic, the issues that Gedling residents have come to us with over 24-25. And I think the interesting figure for me is Simon and I came here about 2.5 years ago, and at the time we presented, the number of issues, average issues, was 2.7 issues per client, whereas we're now looking at sort of 5.28. So the complexity of sort of the case, what clients are bringing to us, has increased. Top issues: benefits and tax credits, benefits, universal credit, debt, housing, and utilities and communications. So again, breakdown of just the top benefit and issues. So what we've seen is the top benefit issue that people need support with is those personal independence payments and completing the forms, which is why the health form project was really, really valuable, because they take time. They can take a good probably couple of hours to go through those forms. So if somebody's coming through on our advice line service, we're not going to be able to support them. So it's really, really valuable having some of those specific projects to provide that more intensive work. Top debt issues at the moment, council tax arrears is what we're seeing sort of for Gedling residents, and obviously fuel debt, which we'd probably expect, but water supply is in there as well. We know the water charges have gone up and impacting on people. So demographics. So this is demographics of the clients that have come to us from Gedling. So the majority of people are of working age. The bit that I'd be really interested in, I don't know whether Simon would know the answer, but I wonder whether it'd be really interesting to see that group sort of 118 clients between 60 and 64. What are the key issues that they're coming with? Is it around employment? Is it around probably health forms? So it might be worth us perhaps having a bit more detailed look into that. Gender, higher proportion of women, and 65% of the Gedling residents coming to us have long-term health conditions and disabilities, and 81% ethnicity of white. Some of the other work that we do that is really, really vital is the research and campaigning work. So our cases and our data feeds into National Citizens Advice. We also write and meet with local MPs and raise issues on behalf of the local communities. And we take part in consultations, and particularly around the recent ones around pathways to work and the debt recommissioning that's going on. So we take the information and knowledge that we've got to be able to help when things are being recommissioned. And a great example of this is the new Consumer Energy Debt Advice Service. So National Citizens Advice have been working for some time identifying that there's not enough support for people around energy debt. And they've been working with the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero over quite a while now. And they've now funded a new service that's potentially going to be for 3 years, a national phone line that anybody with energy debt can receive debt advice through the they'll come through the National Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline. And if they identify there's energy debt there, they get transferred into this team. And we're fortunate that actually we've been selected as one of the delivery partners for that. So we're going to be recruiting up to around 22 people to work on that, which is great news for us, great news for local people as well. That's 22 whole new jobs of quite skilled roles as well. It's a great project, but that came through citizens' advice, being able to campaign to government on what some of the key issues are and how they can provide support. Some of the other things we do is community events and raising awareness. We've attended things like your Arnott Hill event last summer, the Kinshop Roadshow. Simon occasionally does some radio interviews as well. And a couple of years ago, we took part in an Experian project in the city, just raising awareness. A lot of people feel quite anxious and don't want to talk about money. And the concept around the Credit Pause Cafe was helping people to open up in a relaxed environment to just talk about money. Our volunteers perform a range of roles for us, whether it's advising, admin, researching, fundraising, as well as our trustees. It helps them to increase their own knowledge into new areas. It brings skills to us if they've got areas of expertise in their sort of professional lives. And it also helps support people into work as well. We had a wonderful recent experience where a young lady had been volunteering with us for several years, and she's now successfully moved into an apprenticeship, which is a huge loss for us because she'd been an amazing part of the team, but is exactly why that programme's there, is to support particularly young people finding their way, giving them some experience and building their skills and confidence. Last year, the High Sheriff of Nottinghamshire presented an award to our volunteers for the service that they've given to our team. And last year, they gave over 9,000 hours. Okay. I mentioned earlier about the advice on prescription service. So we've had it ran for about 3 years through 3 of the primary care networks in Gedling, Arnold and Calverton, Arrow and Synergy. We were actually up for nomination into the Integrated Care Board Health Awards last year. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but in being even nominated to that level was incredible because it really demonstrated the value of the support that we've given to people through that programme. We've run it alongside Citizens Advice Central Nottinghamshire. They deliver some in Broxtowe and Eastwood areas as well. This is one of our case studies from Synergy. A client was supported by one of our team with a claim for severe disability premium. It was awarded and backdated for more than 3 years, so we were able to achieve sort of £14,000 of gain there that enabled them to do some work on the house, to do some improvements that they weren't able to do before. The great project with the social prescribers for us with advice on prescriptions that they were able to refer into us. We find that the social prescribers and GPs as well, often feel it's quite difficult because there's only so far they can go medically. A lot of the issues that patients are presenting with can't be resolved through medical interventions. So having that service that social prescribers could refer straight into was incredibly valuable for them. And the feedback they gave to us really demonstrated that support. Okay. I've just got one more case study. We do have dozens and dozens, but this one was a client came to us. This was one from the city where a client came for a household support fund voucher. We worked with them to identify that they were in sort of financial distress, were being underpaid in employment support allowance. And we worked with them to get a backdated claim. Now, what was really, really valuable with this one is they were able to use that to put in a walk-in shower, get the adaptations that they needed in their home, improve their garden. So it improved their overall well-being, but it's also that preventative bit as well of somebody that was struggling to climb in and out of a bath. And I'd like to think that actually that's really prevented some future damage to her if she'd have had a fall climbing in and out of a bath, because she's got the shower now. So what's changing for us for 25-26? We've unfortunately, as I've mentioned, some of our services have ended at the end of February and March. So that was the advice on prescription and the health forms, and we know that the Local Communities Fund will end next year. That funding loss in 24 and 25 will obviously impact on our overall service this year. We've been hit by increased costs across the board. So our national insurance increase for us alone was just over £30,000, which is a huge, huge chunk for a charity. We've moved premises this year to help reduce costs, and we've gone through 2 redundancy programmes. So we're doing sort of everything we can to sustain our service that we can provide to clients across all of our areas, and we'll continue to do that. We've got fundraising, so thank you for the Gedling Lottery. It's fantastic. We've got some supporters that support us through that, and our team of staff, volunteers, trustees as well. We've done the Robin Hood Half Marathon for the last 3 years, so that all helps us with fundraising efforts as well. So what is our Citizens Advice data telling us? So we have a cost of living dashboard, which is available, and we can look at and really drill down into the wards. So this is just a snapshot of the last period where it shows what some of the cost of living crisis areas are. So it shows sort of where the clients are and what the issues are by ward. So, and obviously, if any of this is useful, we can obviously provide some of this in a bit more detail as well. And this is quite small, but again, it's just broken down by month what some of the issues are. So you can see at the top, month after month, you know, the personal independence payments and charitable support food banks is really key in terms of providing support. This data comes from National Citizens Advice, which brings together the data across the country around food banks usage, and shows that people using food banks generally are disabled or have long-term health conditions. That homelessness issues are rising and again impacting on those with long-term health conditions and disabilities. Debt issues have changed as well. What we're finding is council tax arrears has come back as a key area of concern for people. Credit cards was there a few years ago, but it's now coming back as council tax arrears and energy debt. And negative budgets as impacting on people who work as well. So what we've been finding ourselves within the debt team is people have got more outgoings than incoming, and that makes it incredibly hard because we can't work with organisations to do repayments if they haven't got any money to be able to do repayments. So that's become quite concerning. So that's the end of the presentation. I'm going to bring Simon up if you've got any questions as well that we can answer for you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. I've got neck ache, but it was very interesting. So I saw Councillor Mortby had raised his hand first of all.
Okay, first of all, can I thank you and your team for all the valuable work you do. It's a service I've worked with for many years when I worked with the Royal British Legion as a welfare officer, so I know how worthwhile your service is. Going forward over the next 12 months, what do you see your main challenges being, and is there any changes in trends that might be contributing towards that?
Yeah, thank you, and I will pass on your thanks back to the team. That's lovely to hear. Thank you. I don't think the trend with the personal interpayments is going to go anywhere soon, so I expect that to still continue. Simon?
Cost of living. Cost of living has dominated advice really for the last 4 or 5 years. People's outgoings have gone up quicker than their income, and as with the last slide about negative budgets demonstrates, more and more people are struggling to meet essential household costs, and I think that's going to continue to be driving out factor for people seeking advice from us.
Thank you. Councillor McCrossan?
Thank you, Chair. Again, can I repeat, thank you for all your hard work you do. It's amazing, and obviously there are a lot of people out there who rely on you very heavily. You mentioned about volunteers and that your data shows that there were 9,000 hours given by volunteers. How do volunteers get involved? Do you do a drive at certain points of the year to get more people on board?
Yeah, what we do is we're in a very fortunate situation that if we look to recruit volunteers, we can open recruitment for 2 or 3 weeks and get maybe 20 or 30 people who are interested. Our issue is not necessarily recruiting volunteers, it's training them and supporting them, and it's and also accommodating them. You know, with the telephones, our telephone service, I need about 40-45 people to answer all the calls on a Monday morning. But we haven't got a place that we can put 40 or 45 people in. We can't expect volunteers to do it at home.
Yeah.
We can't put people at home without equipment. So we recruit as and when we need volunteers, but we're more constrained by our resources to support them than the actual number of people who are willing to volunteer.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Creamer.
Yeah, just a question on the universal credit transitions. I know that one of my families had to go through that recently, and it is complex. I was just wondering, is that actually making things more difficult in the short term? Are you seeing it getting better in the long term and easier to actually transition people and get it right? Because I know there's problems with actually, do I get paid this week or next week, and when they buy back, when they change back. So I'm just wondering how difficult that particular issue is, because I know quite a few people, apart from family members, who actually suffer with that.
The managed migration progress, Sarah, is it 4 or 5 years it's been?
4 years, obviously.
4 years, it's managed migration. The Department for Work and Pensions have done a lot of work, and they've actually staged the migration. They have chosen to leave employment support allowance till last, and that is probably the most complex client group to actually move from legacy benefits to universal credit. Our helped claim advisors are almost probably 95% supporting people with managed migration who are currently in receipt of employment support allowance and moving towards universal credit. The migration is going quite well. All of the migration notices have gone out now, haven't they? Yeah, so with claimants being able to request extensions, the managed migration is probably going to be complete as a programme in early next year. By March, everyone will have moved to universal credit. I don't personally like some parts of universal credit, but what's really good about universal credit is that you can never be claiming the wrong benefit. With the legacy system, there was 5 or 6 different benefits that were all combined, and you had to make individual claims. One of the good things about universal credit, once it's in payment, is that if your circumstances change, universal credit changes. And I think that's the best thing about it. There's parts of it I don't like, but I think once the migration is complete and everyone is receiving universal credit, then it will be a lot easier for people in terms of there's never the wrong benefit to claim.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, and may I also echo the thanks for the work that you're doing. It's crucial. I'd also like to thank you for the Gedling specific data and statistics that you've offered us. That is greatly appreciated. I note, as with local authorities, that charities such as yourselves are experiencing pressure, funding pressure. In your view, and with reference to Gedling, what unmet need do you feel cannot currently be supported and you wished that you could?
I think you could probably double, triple the amount of funding that you gave us, and we would triple the amount of people we support, and it probably wouldn't be enough. It's how, I think the really important bit is how different organisations work together to help meet sort of the wider need. But absolutely, you know, the support that we gave over the last few years through the advice on prescription service and the health forms one, you know, by just not having those services this year already, you can say, well, actually, that's probably 200 people we can't help this year because those short-term projects came to an end. So the funding, we are incredibly grateful, for the funding and support that's given, that enables us to support Gedling residents. But like many councils, funding doesn't go up each year, and that makes it quite hard to maintain and keep up. We've had national insurance increase this year, as well as obviously pay award increases for staff and things. So it is incredibly hard to keep doing what we do in the landscape we're in. But, we can always scale up, that's not an issue. So we go for funding wherever we can. Crisis Resilience Fund that's coming in next year that will replace the Household Support Fund could potentially have really great opportunities for the community sector. I went to the DWP's presentation on it a few weeks ago, and it was really, really warming to see how they're looking for local authorities and the community support sector to come together to deliver that programme, and that it's more around the long-term financial resilience for people. In the city, we've got a programme called Nottingham Financial Resilience Partnership, and it's not about just providing the crisis support needed there and then. It's how do we change that landscape a bit to get people more financially resilient for the future. Those kind of programmes will be great. And I guess if I could ask something of sort of like Gedling Council, in terms of influencing at sort of the county council level, when the programme comes out, the guidance from the DWP will be out in January time. Please do encourage the county council to use the voluntary sector like ourselves to help clients, because that's the kind of funding that we'd be able to tap into to deliver more. So, yeah.
I don't think there are any further questions, but I'd like to thank you again on behalf of the committee. And have you got a copy of the presentation, Ben? Yeah, no. Would that be all right? So,
Yes,
because I think people would find it really useful to be able to look at the figures in more detail.
Yeah, wonderful. Lovely. Thank you, everyone.
So we'll now have a swift changeover at the lectern. And I now welcome our second partnership review, which is the Department for Work and Pensions, and Sarah and her team are going to give another presentation. And again, if we can hold questions to the end, that's very helpful for me if the screen's not working in particular.
As well. Failed at the first hurdle. There we go. Hi, my name is Sarah Cox. I am the South Nottingham DWP, so Department for Work and Pensions Partnership Manager. I'm here today with my colleagues from Arnold Job Centre, and we've come to present the kind of work that we're doing in Arnold and for Gedling, and the partnership working as well that we do or have. So a little bit of information. So Department for Work and Pensions, a government organisation that is aimed to improve people's day-to-day lives and help them build financial resilience and more secure and prosperous futures. So you can see our priorities are noted there. How do we achieve these priorities? Well, we look to help people to move into work and support those already in work to progress with the aim of increasing overall workforce participation. We help people to plan and save for later in life, so while providing a safety net for those who need it now, providing effective, efficient and innovative services to the millions of claimants who rely on us every day, including the most vulnerable in society, and improving experiences of services while maximising value for the money for the taxpayer as well. So with different kind of services that we do offer and in different ways. So at the bottom you can see there's quite a few sort of different, we've got retirement age, state pension, pension credit, winter fuel payment, supporting families, so child maintenance, different benefits that we support with. But today we're going to focus on the Job Centre Plus support, hence why I brought my colleagues with me, and then I'm going to give you a bit of information of how we do that. So I'm going to hand over to Joy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah. So, as Sarah said, we are work coaches, and we work with the Job Centre under the Department of Work and Pensions to provide a range of services for people of working age, and to progress in employment and to access certain benefits. So these include those people already in work and people with health conditions to start, continue and thrive in work. So one of the ways that this is actioned, which our colleagues at Citizen Advice have kind of given us the heads up on, is through universal credit. So this is a payment to help with the living costs, which includes a standard allowance, a housing costs and support for children, among other benefits. And as Citizen Advice has previously said, it's kind of like an umbrella, so it covers an awful lot of benefits. And this has replaced housing benefit, income support, income-based job seekers allowance and income-related ESA, or as we refer to, legacy payments. So in Arnold, the amount of claims have increased from about 4,800 to just over 5,400 from June 2024 to the following 2025, which is an increase of 13%. And as our previous colleagues have said, this will be a lot to do with that move from tax credits to universal credit, but we also need to figure out where the other increase is coming from. So what do we do? So all work coaches have a speciality group. I work predominantly with the youth. Hanzilla, my colleague, supports the 25 plus, so 25 to 49 age group, and he's also a self-employment work coach, while Chris works predominantly with the 50 plus age group. And they will each go into a little more detail as the presentation unfolds. So if you need to look for work, you will get help from one of our work coaches. And the work coach role is to help individuals find and sustain employment by providing tailored support, job search guidance, and access to training and resources. As a youth work coach, every customer that I see has a different story and requires different support. Many young people are eager to start work but struggle due to lack of confidence, work experience, and understanding what employers are looking for. This is supported with referrals to provided, so on the screen we have a range of examples, encouraging engagement, removing barriers to work, such as providing interview clothes, travel costs to interviews and job starts, and stepping outside of their comfort zone. But we also have young customers that are much further away from the labour market. Young people with a history of physical and mental health conditions, no or low qualifications, chaotic lifestyles, caring responsibilities, and care leavers. We work closely with these young people so they can thrive. We collaborate with care leaver teams in the council to encourage engagement, open up opportunities, and create a support group around our customers. We work with our employment advisor, Carl, who connects with local employers to source work experience opportunities, specifically for young people to increase their work experience. Now let's focus on how we collaborate with Gedling, Borough Council. So, a massive advantage that we have over most job centres is that we co-locate with Gedling Borough Council, which allows us to host joint events at the Civic Centre, promotes easier access to services for residents, and enables more integrated support for job seekers and employers alike. For example, we work together on local employment initiatives, such as hosting employee recruitment events and the jobs and apprenticeship fairs. The jobs fairs provide an opportunity for Gedling residents to find out more about sector-based work academies, discover opportunities available in local government, explore employment vacancies, and even participate in mock interviews on the day. So at the last event, 92% of its visitors were from Gedling and 98% would attend future events, which highlights how we work together to serve the borough. We've had some great feedback on these events, including the variety of training providers attending, the big high street names being there, that it's well organised and it accommodates neurodiverse customers. In previous jobs fairs, we have been informed that the fair has been too busy, too noisy and overwhelming. So at the latest jobs fair, we have worked alongside the Disability Employment Advisor, Sarah, and used the media room as a quiet area when customers required it. And we also encouraged customers to attend later in the event, so exhibitors were still present, but the event was not as busy. The event was also attended by Provider Work and Diversity, which is a neurodivergent-led social enterprise bringing lived experience and professional expertise together to improve employment outcomes through building confidence and taking the next steps. But we also know that we need to do more. For example, from the most recent autumn jobs fair, we have received feedback that there's not enough employers present. We're working on this by changing to the sign up to Eventbrite, which has already seen more and different employers and providers signing up, including Knott's Fire and Rescue. The next event will be the annual Apprenticeship and Recruitment Fair, which will take place in February 2026, which will coincide with the National Apprenticeship Week. This is different to most jobs fairs that we do have, or apprenticeships fairs that we do have, because we combine it with a recruitment fair, so we tend to get a lot more demand and a more diverse range of people attending. We also work alongside the Nottinghamshire Family Hub Network, and again, my colleagues at Citizen Advice have already touched on some of these, which is great. Gedling Leisure, Daybook Jigsaw Employment and Training Club, and Kelverton Core. These offer free employment support service available to all residents to support preparing for work and help to encourage the join up of local services for children and families to help with a range of things, including relationships, well-being, education, finances, and increasing confidence. Finally, but by no means least, we have a great relationship with Inspire, who we work alongside to promote adult learning and courses. We are fortunate that Gedling Borough Council employ the UK SPF to fund courses for Gedling residents such as ESOL, so English as a second language, and IT upskilling, which is a huge benefit in our borough to our customers in moving them forward at a quicker pace. We have previously had funding for HGV and forklift truck qualifications when the borough had the demand and the vacancies. This was unique to the borough, which placed many people in jobs quickly and efficiently. And finally, as we know, Arnold Library is a fantastic location and has great facilities to support our customers in upskilling and moving them closer to employability. We hope to build on this partnership by organising Inspire drop-in sessions at the Job Centre and potentially some 3-day courses to improve IT and employability for our customers. This will be based in the Job Centre, so we can work together with Inspire to tailor to the needs of our customer base. Now that is it for me, so I'll pass over to my colleague. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Joy, for getting for the introduction there. As Joy touched upon there, my name's Chris. I'm a job centre work coach, specialising primarily with people in the 50-plus age range bracket. And perhaps not coincidentally, you did see that on the previous presentation that people in the 50-plus age range are making up the highest number of referrals to Citizens Advice. It is also a growing demographic that we're working with in the job centre. Just to give a little bit of context, since the COVID-19 pandemic, for instance, nationwide, there's now nearly 1 million more economically inactive workers aged between 50 and pension age than there were in just 2019. I'm sure everyone here is well aware of the devastating impact that COVID had, particularly on sectors such as hospitality. And the national employment rate, while not too bad for people aged between 50 and 65, is 14.1% lower than that of people 35 to 49-year-old. And just to give some context about how that affects Arnold Job Centre, in the 1 year alone between June 24 and 25, we had a 24.1% increase in 50-plus claimants on our books. So certainly a demographic that's a growing issue for us. So there's a little bit of stats and context. But however, though we are a job centre, as you can imagine with people in that 50-plus age range, it's not always just jobs and work that's near to the heart and of primary concern to them. It's also very often health. And this applies to anyone that's claiming universal credit, but as I'm sure you can appreciate, for obvious reasons, we do feel it more acutely with our 50 plus age claimants. So to emphasise the importance of that, the majority of our 50 plus claimants at Arnold Job Centre do report at least one health condition on the universal credit claim. And a great many of those also feel that their health issues are severe enough that it would prevent them from working. So as a job centre, what can we do in the immediacy about that? Well, short term, we can encourage them to go to a doctor, get a fit note, begin the process of a work capability assessment, which decides whether or not it's suitable that this person should be asked to look for work to claim universal credit. We can also tailor their commitments in the short term about what we expect of them between job centre appointments. But what we can't do so easily, particularly given the infrequency with which we see some of these people, sometimes it's only once a month, what we can't always do is put them in touch with like-minded people, people going through similar things, people that maybe need the same guidance as them. And that's where Gedling Borough Council and the collaboration they give us really come into their own. So just as an example, for people who are in that economically inactive zone or 50 plus age claimants that are struggling with health, the council do some great outreach work coordinated by a couple of colleagues that I am in touch with, Kelly and Ian in particular, doing outreach work at the various leisure centres across the region. And this can be helping customers be signposted towards things such as personal independence payment, which was touched upon by Citizens Advice, and also giving assistance to completing the work capability assessment, which I don't know if anyone in here has seen one of those forms. They are quite big and chunky, and it can be a bit of a daunting task completing those. I saw one person nodding there at least. So the council do a lot of great referral work to places such as Citizens Advice, also the ARC in Gedling, disability support in Baseford, where perhaps we don't necessarily have the time to do that in short 10-minute, 20-minute appointments in a job centre. The council also run 35 welcome and warm spaces right across Gedling Borough, so everywhere from Netherfield, Carlton, Arnold, Bestwood Village. So what are these welcome and warm spaces? They're essentially places where people who are perhaps in that bracket that we've talked about here can go to for refreshments, access to Wi-Fi, newspapers, social activities, something to break the threat of isolation, which very often is an issue for customers that we have that are in that 50 plus age bracket, are economically inactive and are struggling with health conditions. And it really gives them that sense of renewed community and allows them to draw upon the shared experiences of people that are going through similar things. And again, very difficult, much as we try to do that in the job centre appointment when you're sat opposite a work coach. The good people of Gedling, sorry. Yep, should have moved that on. The good people of Gedling will also give us things such as these to give to our customers. You can see a better example of it on there. It's a 3-day gym pass. This can be used at any of the leisure centres in the borough, so that's Arnold, Redhill, Calverton and Carlton Forum. They can use it up to 3 times. It can be used for the gym, swimming and even specialised fitness classes. So how does that benefit us as work coaches? Well, first off, it helps keep our customers engaged with universal credit. As I say, some of these people we may only see once a month, for instance. But more importantly, it gives us some fresh impetus to talk to them about while they're on the universal credit journey. It reminds them that they do have use, they've got some power, that they can change things for themselves. Because very often the mindset doesn't allow them to be as active as they would like. But these kind of incentives that Gedling Borough give us are a massive help in trying to break that cycle and really just makes it easier to help us to get customers to buy into what we're trying to do to them in terms of supporting them. And my colleague Joy did talk about the benefits of being co-located. But as of 2018, so relatively recently, round about only 20% of job centres were co-located with a local authority. We're one of the ones that are lucky enough to be so. And two things that are quite close to my heart, because I'm engaged directly with them both, are our midlife MOT sessions and the Job Search Accelerator programme, which we run in collaboration with West Notts College. You may have seen the West Notts College logo up there earlier. Midlife MOT sessions are something that we run in the council's training suite, which they lend to us every Wednesday. Great facility. Midlife MOT session, primarily about checking people's preparedness for retirement, checking their pension knowledge, overcoming barriers to work, which may be linked into health conditions that they're fighting at the time. And also more recently, the Job Search Accelerator programme with West North. Again, using the training facilities that the council allow us to use on Wednesdays. The Job Search Accelerator, more about people who are nearly job ready, but just need those finishing touches, whether it's interview practice, whether it's guaranteeing that they can make a good impression on a work trial, for instance. We've just ran our first cohort of the Job Search Accelerator programme. Went really, really well. West Notts College would like to expand the programme. They have asked me if there's any chance that Gedling Borough will let us use that training suite a little bit more often. So I am going to have to give someone at Gedling Borough a tap on the shoulder to see if that's going to be possible. So I'll have to make a bit of a nuisance of myself there. But it really does help having these provisions taking place at a site where we are co-located. As work coaches, it really helps us feel like we're a part of the process. And it really helps us see the benefits of what's being delivered to our customers week in, week out as well. So it's been a great collaboration with the council, and long may that continue. And I'm going to hand over now to my colleague, Hanzilla.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Hanzilla, and obviously, as I mentioned, I am the self-employed work coach at Arnold Job Centre. I'm going to be focused on 3 different things. The sort of signposting that we do, the referrals, sort of the health events that we focus on, and the most important one, I think the self-employment one, because we've not had a lot of focus on that previously. Okay, so essentially what we, on a day-to-day basis, what the DWP essentially does, and what we do as work coaches is signpost or refer our claimants to Gedling Borough Council. Now, this is a lot easier for us to do, just because we can just walk them down to the reception and say, hey, someone needs a food voucher, or someone needs support with council tax reduction, for example. So it makes their life a lot bit easier as opposed to people who don't have access to the council directly in the building. We're also obviously able to refer claimants to sort of welfare schemes, such as the Household Support Fund, and obviously that is focused on people that are struggling to afford essentials like clothing, toiletries, and other urgent needs. Obviously, there is obviously the self-employment stuff as well, which I'll come to in a brief while. But I want to focus on, firstly, the duty to refer. Duty to refer is essentially a duty on the public bodies to make a referral to the local authority, housing and homelessness team when they become aware that an individual or household is homeless or threatened homelessness within 56 days. Now, there's different forms of homelessness. It's not about just being on the streets, for example. There could be sofa surfing, they could be living with family and friends, or they could be threatened with eviction. So now, we have a really close example, because I have a claimant, ethnic minority, who was in private rented sector. She one day came in and obviously kind of explained to me about the housing situation that she was living in. There was mold, there was spiders and bugs all across the house. And obviously she wanted to show me a video. We don't really need to see videos of sorts, but we can't take the person's word for it. But she was insistent that see the video and how bad it is. Now initially what I did was obviously refer to the council, but walking her down. Obviously her details were taken, all the information was sought after. And obviously someone from the housing authority kind of went down to look at the property and see what the actual issue was. You'd think that would probably make things better. It didn't. She got an eviction letter the next time she came in, saying to her, because of the housework that we need to kind of focus on, you need to leave the property. So it's not always nice until when we do the referrals. So when she came in the time after that, that's when I did the initial duty to refer, which is an online website that you can use to refer directly to the council, and they look at a case-by-case scenario. So the council obviously is in touch with her at this moment in time. They are aware that she has been given an eviction letter. They have obviously advised her not to leave the property at this moment in time, and are continuously supporting her. It's a really good system, essentially, for us to be able to refer these homeless, vulnerable people, essentially, directly to the council. And obviously, like I said, the outcome, or the initial outcome, isn't always positive, but they continue to work up until either they get some sort of temporary accommodation, or they're able to kind of locate into better housing. Okay, just moving on now. One of the most important aspects of our relationship with the council, obviously, aside from all the employment stuff that we do, is obviously supporting people with health conditions, vulnerabilities. So we did an event back in March called Spring into Health and Wellbeing to support customers with a whole range of advice, support, ranging from legal aid, food banks, financial advice, etc. We do have another one coming up, which is called Tackling Poverty, on the 2nd of December between 10 a.m. And 12 p.m. at the Honour Civic Centre. And, you know, if anyone can come down to that, that'll be really incredible, so that you can see the sort of work that goes in behind organising these events and the support that we're able to provide in collaboration with Gedling Borough Council and support them. So, you know, there's loads of, obviously, organisations that obviously are attached to these events. So there'll be Belong, Futures, Inspire, for example, Talking Therapies, who do focus a lot on people's mental health beings. And obviously there's also legal support and financial support as well for people who are struggling to either manage their money or are struggling with debts, etc. Now, so we've spoken about the unemployed people, the sort of homeless, the health conditions, and 50 plus. What I want to focus on primarily today, as always, is obviously the self-employed customers. Now, previously, I thought they were kind of neglected because there wasn't enough support out there for people who wanted to venture into self-employment. And we're kind of scared because, you know, it's not easy to try and venture into self-employment because of the uncertainty that it involves. And it takes a lot of guts, and I say that to them when I see them, you know, it takes a lot of guts to get into self-employment. It's not an easy thing to do. I wouldn't be able to do it. But, you know, there are some people out there that can do it, but they just need a little bit of support, a little bit of guidance. So before I go into the support that we kind of have available for them now, I won't bore you with it for too long, but I want to explain to you the process of what happens when someone declares themselves self-employed on universal credit. So when someone comes in and they declare themselves self-employed, we have to kind of determine whether they are gainfully self-employed or not gainfully self-employed. Now the kind of difference is someone who's gainfully self-employed will be working more than 50% of their hours working towards that self-employment. They're doing it to obviously make profits, essentially. And in a way, you know, they're not messing around, essentially. You know, they are wanting to take that forward, and they are wanting to make something out of it in the long term. So when we find someone gainfully self-employed, we give them something called a startup period. That lasts for 12 months. Now, a startup period essentially is for them to try and grow their business, grow their income, grow their earnings to a level of a minimum income floor. Now, the minimum income floor is calculated using the national minimum wage times by the hours that a person is expected to do. Now, just for the sake of it, I'll use 35 hours, and they deduct national tax and national insurance contributions. That totals about £1,642.72. Now, when someone becomes self-employed and they're expected to work 35 hours, I kind of say to them, you know, you've got 12 months, try and get your earnings to that level or more, so that, you know, you're on the same pedestal as someone who's unemployed and has to look for full-time work, essentially. Now, before what we were doing was we were referring to an organisation outside, so your sort of Nottingham business venture, for example, kick off in business. Now, you have to understand with some of the self-employment people that come in from, you know, lower socioeconomic backgrounds as well, they're quite reluctant to kind of trust someone from the outside with their business or support. Now, recently, we, in collaboration obviously with the Gedling Borough Council, we have set up something called free business surgeries, and obviously our business partner Cornelius, who kind of runs the sessions. So it's obviously one-to-one support and coaching for people who are on the startup period, guidance, business planning, sustainability, responding to business needs, and obviously working with customers to ensure growth plans are delivered. Now, the most important thing, essentially with that as always, and I had this conversation with Cornelius, when he has that one-to-one meeting with them, that one-to-one, he doesn't lie. When he has that one-to-one assessment initially, he'll tell them if the business is viable or not. So a lot of the times people will think, or people assume, you know, because they worked on something, you know, there is something out there. But with the support that Gedling Borough Council kind of gives them, they kind of take that essence out where they're not going into something where there's uncertainty, and they're not aware that they're not going to be able to earn enough or a lot from it, essentially. So they kind of give that guidance, set them up to essentially establish themselves and continue the support. It's not just a one-off session, it's continuous support even after the initial assessment, where they kind of check up on them on a regular basis to see what they're doing and how they're getting about getting that support. We've also done other events as well. We did our first self-employment event back in Central Library, followed that up with events at Loxley, Arnold, and the recent one being at Bulwell as well, where we invited, you know, speakers from Nottingham Business Venture, Enterprise, DWP ourselves, East Midlands Chamber, etc. and more. And the whole idea essentially behind that is, you know, to encourage individuals, encourage organisations or, you know, or self-employed people to go out there and see what support is available. Now we try and do it locally so that all people can access it and it's easy and for them to kind of attend. A lot of the times before there wasn't support available, so they weren't able to attend. A lot of the time you get put off with getting into self-employment because you don't know what to do. You don't know when to start. Some people don't know how to even register to HMRC, for example. I had a taxi driver, very funny. So I remember he started doing taxiing and stuff, and he came in and kind of explained to me about what he was doing 3, 4, 5 months into it. And I kind of asked him, have you registered with HMRC? You're going to have to be doing your tax returns and stuff. Because no, what's HMRC? So, it's the lack of education. It's the people that don't know. So for us, it's about removing those barriers, ensuring the setup right. So they register with HMRC. They know there is support available if they get stuck or if they're unsure of what to do next. And that's where Gedling Borough Council, Cornelius, for example, are there to support them as well. Because not always possible for us to kind of do that within our appointments times and stuff. But yeah, just want to say thank you, obviously, for having us here today as well. I think Sarah's going to take the mic again for the ending as well. And then, thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, obviously, for sharing the experiences and support. It is obviously just to showcase the partnership working. So obviously, as work coaches, we have those conversations with individuals, and then it's identifying that support that's required. Clearly, from the presentation, we do rely heavily on, obviously, on the partnership, the networking. It's around that joint support with moving people forward, moving them into employment. As Chris had mentioned around the co-location, conversations I have with partnership manager and the team at Gedling Borough Council, looking at those joint approaches. The HGV one, I think was about 30 people, wasn't it? I think that had obviously got into employment, Gedling residents. And again, we was be able to support some of our customers with that. So it is very much, it's Gedling residents, it's our customer, it's a service user for some of our partners as well. So it is very much a joint up approach, so what we can do and how we can support those people into work or closer to work. So thank you, and I appreciate your time. And if there are any questions, I'll phone a friend. No, I'm joking.
Thank you very much. Really interesting presentation. And thank you to all your colleagues as well. Thank you. So I've got a question from Councillor Ellis, and then Councillor Creamer and Councillor Morby.
Thank you. And thank you very much for your presentations. It's great that so many of you have been willing to spare the time to come and talk to us this evening. It's been really useful. A bit similar to the question I asked of the previous speakers. We're looking at rising cost of living pressures on agencies and so on. What specific gaps in supporting Gedling residents have you identified that neither the council nor your agency is currently unable to meet? And what would it take to close those gaps?
I think a lot, or the same as obviously the sort of white paper talks about the youth and the youth guarantee that we've got in place. It's sort of investing. We talk about the health as well. So have we got gaps there? I think it's about anything. There's improvements that we can look at and to support those individuals. The youth is our future. But again, when we look at that sort of aspiration that the white paper talks about, getting 80% of people into employment, it is those socially, economically inactive sort of customers that we need to identify. Even more so important, obviously, for that partnership work in reaching out into the community. So that's the kind of view. I don't know if I've answered your question, but that's what we're looking at, how we can support those people. Yeah, so work experience, thank you, John. So work experience, employment, working with employers, looking at, the support that they can offer. Part of my role, I lead on school advisors as well. So we've got school advisors who will go out into schools to support with careers advice, mock interviews, working with the careers enterprise and employers. And it is seeking those work experience opportunities, talking about, sort of apprenticeships to those young people, but obviously work experience for our own customers as well at different ages is key. And I think it's obviously giving them that experience of work that helps them then to move forward which is something that we're looking at.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, that's good to hear that, I mean, certainly working with young people is crucial. I've noted the presentation on the 50 plus population, and they clearly form a fair percentage of the socially and economically inactive. They may also be quite anxious if they feel they're being put under significant pressure. I was just wondering whether you've got any comments on what you found is best able to engage that particular demographic.
I think a lot of it is confidence building support. Do you want to come up?
I'm happy to.
Come on then.
So in terms of, I suppose your question is related to the particular barriers that the 50 plus are experiencing. So one, obviously it's not always about health, but one particular barrier that we're trying to mitigate against is a feeling of not being fully computer literate and maybe not having technology at your fingertips. As I'm sure everyone in this room appreciates, more and more things are becoming solely online. It is more and more crucial to have a level of digital literacy. And this is certainly, particularly customers who are nearing retirement age but still want to work, who haven't got that experience of using computers, using tablets in work. That is quite a big barrier as well. We do have a number of providers that we can refer 50 plus customers to get them that level of computer literacy. But it's a very tough, psychologically I think for a lot of people, it's a very tough barrier to break through, because I think once they've had a bad experience maybe using computers, it kind of convinces them that they're not able to do it full stop. And you know, we're all guilty of that in some respect in life. But that's a particularly big one that we are that we're trying to mitigate against now. Getting that comfort, that sort of level of comfort using technology, and therefore making yourself more employable to more people. Was there another element that you wanted answered? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. No problem.
Thank you. Councillor Creamer?
Yeah, just interested in the homelessness, in the duty to refer. I was just wondering, is there a specific timetable after referral that you go back to make sure that the various agencies you've reported to have actually acted on it, or once you've referred it, does it just stop?
No, I mean, there is that collaboration, obviously, to understand, you know, if we're having regular appointments with the individual, they'll have follow-on calls, and then we can check in with colleagues around, you know, where they are with that referral. It is quite a difficult landscape at the moment, obviously, housing situation, and it is just, you know, again, we talked about those warm spaces and other places that are available for people, but it is a continual kind of checkpoint of what's happening.
Councillor Maltby.
Thank you. The gentleman's reply to Councillor Ellis answered my question, so thank you very much.
I don't think there are any further questions, so if I could just thank you once again, that was really interesting. And if it's okay, I'm sure the committee would like a copy of the presentation.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. So I'm now going to introduce Jenny Hollingsworth and some of the staff from her area of portfolio, and this is part of our ongoing review of portfolio holder performance.
Well, thank you very much. And I just had two words in my head when I was listening to the previous speakers, and it was partnership and passion. And I think that really came through, the commitment to what people do. And I hope during this presentation you'll see that that is matched by our own staff, who are incredibly committed and passionate about what they do as well. So I've been asked to limit to about 10 to 15 minutes, which I'll try to do. In fact, DWP has very kindly gone over some of the partnership working that we do. So I'm going to start with, I haven't got a screen, so you'll forgive me if I sort of swing round every now and again. But I'm going to... Who's got the clicker? Have you got the clicker? Oh, excellent. Right. So I'm going to start with the Gedling Local Development Plan. You'll remember that we had a local plan which was adopted in 2018, which came after the aligned core strategy that was adopted in 2014. You'll also recall that we withdrew from the Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan at the beginning of this year. That followed some changes to the MPPF and the transitional arrangements. So we diverged. However, we still work closely with our partner authorities, and some of the evidence base remains the same across the piece, because we do not work in isolation. We do not live in isolation from our partner authorities. So the first slide is just the dates on when documents have been put out for consultation, and the adoption is anticipated in spring 2028, and it should be within the life of Gedling Borough Council before LGR is implemented. So in terms of the consultation, there were around 1,500 responses, 2,000 comments were on specific sites. Burton, Joyce and Woodborough residents were particularly concerned about flooding, and certainly flooding in and around the river corridor where homes might be impacted there. Calverton residents were particularly concerned over the potential loss of the Little Adventures Forest School. The majority of Carlton residents responded related to the loss of Mapley Golf Course. Obviously, the consultation, which closed in September, was not just about housing allocation, but was about other issues as well, to do with climate change, to do with employment, to do with transport as well. So the next step is to develop the evidence base, and you'll see there a list of documents which will be produced, some which are undertaken in-house, the site selection, sustainability appraisal, and the very important infrastructure delivery plan, which makes sure that everything is in place for the developments which will go ahead in the next few years. Tell me if I'm galloping through, I'm trying to... So the next steps will be to summarise and respond to the comments that have been received, and the Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan will form the starting point. The site selection, which is really important because we're required to provide 631 houses per annum and 11,358 over the planned period, which goes up to 2043, I think, if memory serves me right. So that means the existing supply needs to find sites for around 1/3 of the 79 reasonable alternatives which were in the consultation for the issues and options. That equates to 10 to 15 sites. There will be 2 cross-party working groups, as has happened in the past. I think one is this week, this Thursday, I think, is coming. That allows representatives from other parties to ask questions, raise concerns, and have a general discussion about the plan which will be going forward. Do you want to say anything more about the plan, Mike?
I think
okay, thank you. So the next slide is we're moving on to the community infrastructure levy, which I think you're probably familiar with. We introduced this it was adopted in 2015 and came to full effect in October 2015. You'll see that over 10 million has been collected since the adoption, and approximately 6 million has been spent on strategic infrastructure. And you'll be aware that over 4 million went towards Colliery Way and 1.5 million towards the construction of Gedling Country Park. Around 1 million has been spent on neighbourhood infrastructure projects in non-parished areas, and 1 million has been passed to the relevant parish councils in accordance with the regulations. There is an element which can be spent on administration costs, which are associated with the monitoring and implementation. Sorry, I can't see very well. So an annual infrastructure funding statement is published every year, and you will see that comes to Cabinet and then goes to Council. It provides a breakdown of contributions collected and expended, and it also includes the Section 106 contributions. There was a strategic review of Council's infrastructure list, and a report was approved by Cabinet on the 4th of September. As a result of the review, the strategic project of Carlton Leisure and Community Centre was included on the infrastructure list. The element that used to be on what was called the 1, 2, 3 list, which was the education contribution, remains, because that will apply to Topwick Hay particularly for education contributions up there. There will be a review of the charging levies, which will commence in advance of the adoption of the local development plan, anticipated in spring 2028. In terms of planning development management, you will see that the performance remains strong. 100% of major applications, 87.5% of minor applications, and 93.1% of other applications. That's against a national target of 60% for major and 77% for minor. And that has been consistent for a long time now. So I think our staff are to be congratulated for maintaining those very high standards. It gives certainty to applicants, particularly developers, but also the minor applications, household applications, make up around, I think it's 80% of the applications that they deal with. So it's good to know that our residents get such a good service from our officers. You'll see there that major planning applications are currently being considered in Bestwood, Chase Farm, the reserved matters for the employment units, the pub restaurant and the drive-through restaurant. And I know from listening to Chase Farm residents that is particularly welcome. They want to see that development come forward. The land at Killissick Lane is being brought forward for the erection of 172 dwellings, and Stoke House on Stoke Lane, which I think Councillor Adams will be particularly familiar with. There's an application for a change of use to 17 self-contained apartments. I think it's been empty for 5 years now, I think, something like that. And I know it's generated concern for local residents down there. In terms of planning enforcement, 130 new cases created during the year to date, and 110 with a positive resolution. 4 planning controversies have been served, and there are currently 100 live investigations being considered. In terms of building control, a total of 396 applications for building regulations approval have been received for the year to date, and 21 dangerous structures have been reported and investigated by the Council. 3 notices have been served to ensure that structures concerned are made safe immediately. So we'll now move on to business growth. I did receive a question towards the end of last week, and some of it does actually concern a question on sort of business growth and support for businesses. So I hope this question is partially answered in the next few slides. So Gedling Borough Council Business Support Offer is a small business advice service provided by B Global and Nottinghamshire County Council. We have a Gedling Business Support Network which meets bi-monthly, and the meetings cover key issues. There is a business grant programme offering funding, start-up and growth initiatives, and the business advisor and local centre visits provided by B Local. East Midlands Chamber Accelerator Project available to Gedling businesses community. So the Gedling Business Support Networks have had 2 meetings so far, with a 3rd planned for December 2025. They've been really welcomed. They've been really well attended. People have shared ideas, offered support, met other business in the borough, which might be supportive of their own businesses. We've had some excellent speakers looking at sort of carbon reduction and sustainability. The one on artificial intelligence I found particularly interesting, and have since got ChatGPT, which is quite amazing. So, B Global Small Business Advice sessions are held twice monthly at the Civic Centre, and there's an average of 6 businesses receiving support. The business advisor has now visited all the borough's high streets, provided business support and monitored the high street's health, with follow-up business support visits underway. The business grant programme being delivered by Nottinghamshire County Council is receiving a good uptake, and monthly business grant surgeries take place at the Civic Centre, and monthly grant panels to determine awards. I actually sit on the grant panels, which is money from UK SPF. I have to say that entrepreneurship is alive and well in Gedling, and there are some amazing people out there doing lots of interesting things. So we try and help to boost their business by providing funding for expansions, possibly, but IT equipment and that sort of thing. The maximum grant is £3,125. There's a business support programme for those who have been trading for up to 3 years. The offer includes starting in business workshops, grants of up to £750, and 4 allocated to Gedling, and these have been fully allocated. The accelerator programme provided by East Midlands Chamber is available to Gedling businesses, and it helps businesses across the East Midlands to sustain, grow and innovate through an extensive programme of business workshops, high growth and exporting specialist advice through one-to-one group sessions. In terms of workforce development, employment and skills opportunities, you've heard quite a bit from the work we do with DWP. The futures, I think that was mentioned, Transform Your Future. Digital skills training again, which was mentioned by DWP, and ESOL training as well. In terms of in terms of Transform Your Future, has engaged 80 candidates to date, all receiving employability support. 36 Gedling residents have engaged with the digital skills training, and 15 Gedling course completions. In terms of ESOL, there have been 19 enrolments and 12 completed the course. You've heard from DWP about the jobs fairs, which we work very closely with DWP. The annual apprenticeship recruit. I won't go through all those because you've actually heard all about them. We have an employment and skills group, which meets quarterly, and that brings together all our partner organisations who provide any sort of employment and skill training to ensure that our residents have access to the sorts of courses and skill-based that they need to get employment. So Futures Transform Your Future programme is being successfully delivered with a good uptake, and it's on track to deliver key UK SPF outputs and incomes. You've heard about Inspire, ESOL and Digital. There is sector-based work academy programmes currently taking place with care providers, Tender Loving Care, Carlton and Blue Sky Care, Newstead. I think everything else has been mentioned on there. Strata Homes and Keepmoat Homes have recently launched a work experience programme in partnership with Arnold Job Centre. And as I've mentioned, the Employment Skills Group brings together the key stakeholders and partners so we can work together on improving employability, skills and career aspirations. There's Gedling Schools secondary programmes, which you heard from DWP. involving a number of key events such as the Careers Fair, Careers Talks, mock interview days and speed networking events. Right. In terms of town centre and the local economy, market management projects, 3 new traders are starting a trial period in Eagle Square in September. And there's a social media campaign to build the profile of the market into the community and visitors into the town. Promotional banners will be displayed around the town and wider areas to push the message further. Promotion of the markets are being shown on the big screen at Bonington Theatre this month between screenings. The second police beat surgery has been held. That was held on November the 8th. The first 2 were successful, and retailers and businesses were made aware of these events. The police are applying to stand on the market to build a stakeholder rapport and share safety knowledge with the community. The police will be promoting Days of Action, which is an initiative that the police are rolling out in Arnold. This increases the uniform profile on the high street and so already made some successful arrests, including for drugs and illegal e-scooter use through the town, because we know that e-scooters are dangerous to people, particularly those who are not very mobile. A high street Halloween trail took place in half term with a spooky trail for families to do around the high street and a fancy dress prize for the best dressed spook. Dyson Ball will be hosting the High Street Trail through the calendar year as part of their community engagement and supporting the self-led community calendar. Do you think I could have some water, please? Excuse me. Thanks very much. Dry throat. Thank you. In terms of the AMP live events in Arnold, B Global will be promoting their free business surgeries at the Small Business Saturday on December the 6th. Christmas Light Switch On will host a market footprint again this year. 14 traders are booked and paid to attend. A contract extension has now been completed for the AMP contract to continue until October 2026. In terms of accessibility, Arnold Active Neighbourhood Scan are working with residents to review mobility access into the high street. Footfall has been monitored, and the monthly footfall in Arnold Town Centre has seen a 2.5% decrease compared with August 2024, higher than the East Midlands average of 0.8. Burton Joyce has seen a 1.4 decrease on August 24, slightly higher than the East Midlands average. Carlton Square Town Centre has decreased by 1% compared with 24. Carlton Hill has continued a positive trend with 0.4% increase, bucking both the local and national trend. Gedling monthly footfall has seen a 2.3% decrease. Mapley has seen a 1.8% decrease. Ravenshead has seen a 0.5% decrease on August, which is very similar to the national average. In terms of town and local centre economy, Arnold voids are running alongside the national average at 13.8%. Eagle Square has a new marketing campaign rolled out since August, attracting 4 new traders, and there is ongoing interest. There have been 12 markets delivered and 4 Christmas markets planned. I've mentioned the Safer Streets. 41 retailers have benefited from one-to-one business surgeries. I've mentioned the Halloween event and the neighbourhood scam. So, UK, yes. Thank you. So in terms of government grant initiatives, you'll be aware that UK Shared Prosperity Fund was extended for 1 year only. with a total value of 1,172,000. There were 23 projects, 8 capital and 15 revenue. The budget spend is on track, and contingency projects are being prioritised in case there's any underspend, and they're ready to go to fill any voids. Outputs and outcomes are trending upwards now that projects are in contract and delivering. The mid-year report was submitted to EMCA, and I understand GB's submission was the first to be submitted to the authority. Capital projects range from car park resurfacing, new Borough signage and plant room works for leisure centres. Revenue projects range from business grants and advice, digital training and health and wellbeing grants. So 41 businesses have received non-financial support, 170 people have been supported towards employment, 45 have received essential skills training, 41 people have increased employability through development skills. So we'll move to government grant initiatives and the Great Carlton Plan for Neighbourhoods. So following extensive consultation, the board have agreed that the 10-year regeneration plan will focus on targeted investment and partnership working across 5 priority areas. And you'll see there the skills and learning, youth and aspirations, health and wellbeing, local economy and business growth, and safety and feelings of safety. So the Carlton Town Board approved the regeneration plan and 4-year investment plan on the 30th of October. A report has been uploaded for Cabinet for the 19th of November, which is this week, seeking approval of the Council as the accountable body. The Council is currently developing proposals set out within the 4-year investment plan to ensure that projects are ready for delivery from the 1st of April 2026. The next slide shows David Stewart, OBE, who is now the chair of the Greater Carlton Neighbourhood Board. So the proposed areas of investment are community organisations, green spaces, shopfront improvement grants, improvements to sport facilities, local centre and high street improvements, heritage assets and parks, and wellbeing and social cohesion. The next slide just gives you the dates when all these things will be achieved. The programme delivery is due to be launched on the 1st of April 2026. I will circulate these slides obviously, so. The next slide relates to Ambition Arnold. We know that Arnold urgently requires intervention to replace failing facilities, boost health and wellbeing, and reinvigorate its declining town centre. With your permission, Chair, I won't spend too long. There's a very substantial report going to Cabinet, and if people want to read that, I think that's probably the best way to take your time on that. But there was a vision consultation in 24 and a REBA Stage 2 consultation in 2025. I'll now move to the homeless strategy, and you heard from DWP the importance of the cooperation between agencies in terms of ensuring that people are housed as quickly as possible. You'll see the reasons why people are becoming homeless. It's a problem that's not going away anytime soon. Loss of private rented accommodation. Hopefully when the new Tenants' Rights Bill comes in, the Section 21s will not be as much of a problem as they are now. The table shows the number of homelessness applications to the Council over the past 6 years. For 2025-26, the Council has already received 455 homelessness applications up to the 23rd of October 2025. So this is an ongoing problem which all councils are facing. Our council officers spend a lot of time and expertise in preventing homelessness for as many residents as possible by liaising with landlords to resolve any issues, to stop them taking eviction proceedings and keeping individuals in their current home, to utilise the home prevention grant to fund initiatives, to end rough sleeping, and to provide financial assistance from the discretionary housing payment scheme to help families with housing costs such as shortfalls in benefit payments, which can lead to rent arrears or deposits, and or rent in advance payments needed to secure accommodation. So financial assistance is provided from the Homeless Prevention Grant to help individuals at risk of becoming homeless due to rent arrears or assist in securing a property by funding deposits and rent in advance. To help as many residents as possible to move from one home to another without the need for temporary accommodation, and where this is not possible, the council will provide safe and accessible temporary accommodation to those households that have a priority need. To develop individual personalised housing plans with those at risk of homelessness, outlining steps to secure and maintain accommodation and provide support to achieve those goals. They also provide education in schools to educate school-aged children about the realities of homelessness to prevent homelessness in the future. Excuse me. So the Council reviews allocations policy to maximise opportunity to prevent homelessness whilst addressing all housing need, improve its data and analysis and understand the cause of homelessness. Council will ensure regular reviews and evaluations are undertaken to identify what works best and to adapt its approach to homelessness as needed. Paul, did you want to make any comment on the homelessness strategy? Have I covered everything that... Okay, thank you. There is a continuing demand for social housing in the borough, and it significantly outweighs the available supply, causing housing hardship for many. You'll see that in 24-25, only 174 general needs and 60 sheltered properties were advertised on the council's home search register, and that far outweighs the number of people who will be applying to be rehoused in social housing. The lack of turnover in an already depleted social housing stock, increase in the renting privately, as well as the private sector landlords leaving the sector. Obviously, social rents are more affordable, so more people are applying to join the housing register. The current waiting lists continue to grow. There are currently 661 active claims on home search, and the council receives an average of 120 applications each month, with an average of 40 new applications activated. So that's what, a third of applications actually qualify to go on the housing register. In terms of temporary accommodation, the Housing Suitability Order outlines housing authorities must not use bed and breakfast to accommodate families with children or pregnant women, except in an emergency and where there are no alternative options available. The period should not exceed 6 weeks. And I have to congratulate and thank Paul and his team for the excellent work they've done. They've reduced the number of people in bed and breakfast down to, was it three families, Paul?
About 3 or 4 on average.
3 or 4, and how many did we have?
In September 24, we had 35 households in bed and breakfast, so a significant reduction since that, just under 12 months.
They've really done an outstanding job in reducing that. Nobody should be in bed and breakfast unless it's absolutely essential. Council is committed to eliminating the use of bed and breakfast and has increased the number of temporary accommodation properties it owns within the borough to 35, and there are further 4 properties have had offers. Have they been accepted, Paul?
Yeah, they've been accepted and we're just going through the conveyancing at the moment. So there are no chains involved. So we are hopeful that we should secure those in weeks rather than months to make the total 39 in total.
Thank you. And again, thanks to Paul and has Emma been supporting in the council estates for that work that they've done? Because I know competition for properties was pretty stiff, wasn't it, at one time? So done really well to get those properties. Obviously, it provides accommodation, temporary accommodation for residents who need it, but it also remains an asset for the council. The council is also undertaking a nightly charged temporary accommodation procurement to provide a provider that can deliver to TA in the borough should demand increase and exceed the 39 properties that we manage. So covering all bases and having backup in case that temporary accommodation is already taken. And you can see the pressures that we're under at the moment in terms of people becoming homeless and needing to move on. In terms of refugees and asylum, I'm going to, Paul, do you mind just doing because my throat is drying up.
Yeah, the slides, the next couple of slides just try to explain the current situation with refugees and asylum seekers. So from the council's perspective, we are not responsible for housing them individually at this time. So what I've tried to explain is the different schemes that they are. So there is the dispersal scheme and there's the resettlement scheme. So the dispersal scheme are people that have made their own way into the country and are seeking asylum. Now, whilst they're seeking asylum, they are entitled to accommodation. That is arranged by the Home Office. And you may have heard of a company called Serco. It's on one of the next slides. They've been commissioned for the East Midlands to provide that accommodation whilst each individual is seeking their status. Now, when their status is approved and they are allowed to remain in the country, they are given, depending on whether they're a family or whether they're individuals, they're given either 28 or 56 days notice. Once that notice elapses, they are entitled to housing support, NHS education, benefits, and they can work. So once that happens, they're basically on their own. They need to find their own accommodation. At that point, from Gedling Borough Council and my team's perspective, they can present to us for housing advice, they can present to us as homeless, and we will treat them as we would anybody else under the Housing Act. If they're entitled to temporary accommodation, if they're deemed to be in priority, we will provide that, but we will still take a homeless application and we'll work with them to secure accommodation. They might not be able to go onto the housing register because they haven't got a local connection, but we will work with them to get them into the private sector. And as Councillor Hollingsworth explained, we will use the funds that we've been allocated to maybe pay deposits, rent in advance to secure that accommodation. The other scheme is the resettlement scheme. This is where they have been, individuals have been invited into the country. That is then again dealt with by the Home Office. They provide that accommodation. The council has no requirement to get involved into that process. They are given support by the City Council over a 3-year period. Again, after that 3 years, if their accommodation ends, they can approach us as homeless, but that hasn't happened at the moment. But the key thing is that there are 2 distinct schemes there. There is the dispersal, which are people coming into the country of their own free will, and the resettlement of people that have been asked to come into the country. So hopefully these slides will kind of explain, I don't want to go through every sort of status on there, but I've tried to give the overview of what happens from arrival all the way through to their eligibility. So again, at the end, I can go over any questions that you might have. Just go to the Serco. So yeah, just to go on for Serco. So Serco have been appointed. Again, it's not Gedling Borough Council. We've not appointed Serco. They've been appointed by the Home Office. And their role under the dispersal scheme is to secure properties in the East Midlands, but obviously respectively for Gedling, to address the number of people seeking accommodation. They will do those placements. They will work with us to ensure that the properties that they provide are suitable, whether we feel that they are safe for those residents to move into. So I'm working with them on a daily basis when they send me over a list of addresses. They will then try to secure those properties. Some are already available, some are renting, some are being bought up by investors, so there's no guarantee that they'll actually secure those properties. And they'll continue to do that until they've got the relevant amount of properties required to address the need. And that's about it, I think, from a Serco point of view.
Thanks
I've touched on the
much.
56 days already.
Just saved my throat. Thank you. And Chair, you'll be very pleased to know that we're coming up to the last bit, and which is empty homes. And again, an officer that works tirelessly and has achieved incredible results since she was in post. I won't go through it line by line, you're capable of reading it, but just to say there are around 269 long-term empty properties, and according to stats, 1,652 unoccupied properties. Just to say that properties can be empty for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's for a very short period while they're being sold or refurbished, and they are occupied again very quickly. There are more problematic ones where it's possibly where somebody has gone into residential care and they may not have the capacity to arrange their own affairs and make arrangements for the house. So obviously have to work with other agencies, social workers, to get some sort of guardianship in place so that those that process can proceed. Others, goodness knows why some are empty for the amount of time they are. We know that some are empty for 10 years plus. But you'll see from there the key achievements, some of them, they're just a very few, I can tell you. The amount that Nicola Bryant has got back into use is really quite astonishing. And again, it's partnership working. Partnership not only with the owners, but also with other agencies, estate agents, and other people. And I think it was 3 years ago, Nicola won an award for partnership working. So I think that's a measure of the standing she has within the organisation and partner organisations. I'll just finish with the question that I received. Hopefully, the support for local businesses and economic recovery has been covered in the slides. Another question was, how is Gedling Borough working with the combined authority and neighbouring councils to deliver shared growth and sustainability growth? The council has strong connections with its neighbouring local authorities and takes part in regular groups and forums to network, share best practice and collaborate on opportunities across economic growth and development. The frequent interactions between our neighbouring authorities have proven invaluable by allowing us to take advantage of collective skills and experience when developing strategies such as UK SPF that provides impactful growth initiatives and support for our residents. The meetings provide the essential platform for us to be kept informed of key updates and changes concerning growth and sustainability. It enables us to plan and prepare for new challenges and opportunities. The Council and its neighbouring authorities have been using their groups and forums to connect with EMCA and influence the development of missions, such as the newly released East Midlands Growth Plan. The Council continues to engage with key leads as the combined authority emerges to establish and build relationships whilst promoting local needs into consideration of the new regional plans and programmes. EMCA are being updated on our plans and aspirations for the borough, with ongoing discussions being held to explore opportunities for collaboration on programmes such as Ambition Arnold and the Greater Carlton Plan for Neighbourhoods. And we look forward to developing our relationship and working with EMCA to deliver shared growth goals across the borough. And the final question was, how is the council preparing for the potential impacts of LGR, further regional devolution and planning reforms? So in terms of local government reorganisation, a report will be provided to full council on the 26th of November with an update on LGR, including the work undertaken to determine which option to develop as a final proposal submission in November 2025. The deadline for submission to the government is the 28th of November. And whilst MCA is still a new authority, with Claire Ward having been elected in May 24, the council is building relationships with the authority and having discussions about how Gedling Borough Council can support MCA's mission in the East Midlands. A discussion has taken place with MCA regarding the progression of our local plan to help support the emerging spatial development strategy. The government undertook several consultations in respect of proposed planning reforms during the summer, including the reform of planning committees, speeding up build rates of housing, and reform of biodiversity net gain, to which the council provided responses. The precise nature of any reforms to the planning system have yet to be finalised, but the council respond appropriately and implement any necessary changes required by future reforms. So I hope that, I don't know where the question came from, but I hope that covers most of what was in the questions.
Thank you, Jenny. I think that took a little bit longer than the
I
10
think
to
it took a lot
15
longer.
minutes.
I'm very sorry, but it's a very broad portfolio and it
I
covers,
appreciate
covers
that.
a lot of areas. So,
But thank you, that there was a lot of information for people to take in. I'm really conscious of the time now, but the people who submitted questions in advance, first of all, have your questions been answered?
I think they were all from me, so thank you. Yeah, that was great. Thank you. That was exactly sort of the information that I was after. And because I haven't got any further questions, I'm just going to quickly say that I just want to say thank you very much for the presentation itself, which was really interesting, and just recognise the efforts. I think particularly the planning officers for their performance, the temporary accommodation and the empty homes. I think it's just really impressive work across the board from those teams. So just to recognise and thank them, because I have no further questions. Thank you.
thank you, Councillor Brockles, and I'm sure the officers will be very pleased to take those congratulations and thanks back to their teams, because they work away and they don't always get the recognition I don't think that they should get. So this is an opportunity to showcase what great work our staff do. Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. And I would certainly like to echo what's just been said about the work of our officers. It's my view that they go above and beyond in very many circumstances. It also illustrates the breadth of your portfolio. It's an awful lot to take in, isn't it? I'd like to take us back towards the beginning of your presentation, if I may. When and I'm sure other councillors, talk to residents, especially those who are having the prospect of additional housing built in their area, one of the things that comes up time and time again is infrastructure. And while, of course, the borough can influence and enable the development of certain types of infrastructure, there's other infrastructure which we can't. We can have to use soft power if we're going to do anything, I guess. So I suppose my question is, what evidence, hopefully independent evidence, do we have that schools, GP practices, shops and public transport can and will support the next 3 to 5 years of planned development? And again, ideally, and I know there's debate on how things like health centres are developed, but ideally either within walking distance of residents or easy access through public transport. Thank you.
Yeah, please, Mike, you probably put it far better than me.
Thank you. I think that's a really excellent question, and yeah, we're mindful of the fact that this is at the forefront of everybody's mind. That we'll be delivering a significant number of new homes to meet our objectively assessed housing need. So, as part of the plan making process, there's significant work which is ongoing at the moment to determine what the infrastructure requirements are. We will be working collaboratively with key stakeholders, including the County Council, to determine education requirements. We'll be working with health colleagues to determine what those requirements are. We'll be working with teams internally to determine what public open space requirements need to look like. There's work that's ongoing with Paul and his team to determine affordable housing requirements. And for each of the allocations that will come forward, we will, where possible, set out what those requirements are in the local plan going forward. That will provide certainty for our residents, and that will provide certainty for developers. So we need to ensure that the allocations going forward are viable and that they can deliver the required level of infrastructure so that we can secure contributions and on-site provision to mitigate the impact of any new development that is coming forward. So we'll set some of this out further in the cross-party working groups, which Jenny alluded to earlier on. So we've got the first cross-party working group. It's not the first cross-party working group, but it's the first cross-party working group following the issues and options consultation. That will be taking place on Wednesday evening. Then we have another session which is scheduled to take place before Christmas. So we will be providing detailed information to all of the groups representing the borough.
I don't see any further questions. So I'd like to thank you again. I know you've not been well, so we're really grateful for you coming and can't believe how wide your portfolio is. I'm wondering if going forwards we ought to perhaps break it down into more than one session, but that might make your workload even higher.
I think that's probably a reasonable idea is to do that, but you've had because you've had two other presentations as well. But thankfully, they actually all link together, which I think really shows our partnership working, which we value very much across all the agencies and organisations that we work with.
Thank you. I will let you all depart while we carry on. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to item 7, the annual report. So Emma has sent out a draft annual report which we need to approve, but are there any questions, comments, additions before we do that? Okay, so do we formally vote to approve? Okay, so all those in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. And that will now go to council. Yes, for the annual Be Rude About the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny item. Moving on to item 8, that is our work programme going forwards. I mean, I do wonder if there's a better way of us looking at the portfolios of cabinet members, because I don't know about everybody. It seems like we listen to really long presentations, and then we have to all think of the questions. It'd be more useful to have some of that information in advance of the meeting, and then we could, rather than have the slides read out, we could then ask the questions, and it could be a bit more interactive. I don't know if we can come up with something.
We can do it however is best for members. As long as you have the information that you need, you've got the information to scrutinise them. The point of, obviously you know your role, but your role is to scrutinise decisions, plans, any upcoming things, any things that have happened. So whatever works best for you. you're all members that sit on council, you know the decisions, you get the delegated decisions through council as part of the minutes, so you can see those. So whatever works best for you, and I'm sure that current members wouldn't mind to not sit and talk through something that you could just read and then ask questions. So whatever's best for you is fine by us.
I know that they're really keen to showcase all the work their staff are doing, but there must be a better way of doing it. So, sorry, Councillor Allen.
Shall we maybe cover all the elements of, have a list of all the elements of their portfolio, the meeting before they're coming? And then as this committee, choose exactly what we want to focus on, and then get them to deliver something that relates to that item, rather than coming and doing the whole portfolio every single time.
Should we have put this as an item to discuss at a future meeting so people can have a think about it? So preferably one where we haven't got lots of speakers, and I don't want it to be thought that we don't appreciate all the work people are doing, but I don't feel we're currently doing our role well enough. I've got Councillor Pope and then Councillor Creamer and Councillor Duncan. There's more discussion on this than anything else.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone wants to go home and have some dinner. I think my preference would be some précis, not necessarily a presentation being provided, but a précis of the scope of activity the portfolio holder undertakes. And then some, I suppose, more strategic elements for them to tease out so that we can have a discussion around those more so than the necessarily death by PowerPoint that sometimes happens.
Okay, I think if there's suggestions about how we do it, should we hold that for when we're actually going to have an agenda? All right, email Emma, and then what will we do? Come back with some ideas that we can approve, and then...
Yeah, so I was going to say for the next meeting, we have Councillor Linda Pearson sort of on sort of standby, but we can maybe trial this as get information from her before she comes and then ask her questions before. The only caveat that I want to say is of course, if you're asking her on the spot, she may not have the full details. So does it relate to my point? You can...
Yeah, but as we're looking for suggestions, I was actually going to go along with Roy and sort of the other one as well, as a halfway house. So you're discussing it as if you've already made up your mind. I would like to see something like what Roy was suggesting, where they say what their elements of their portfolio, and maybe they highlight what they would like to speak on, what they think is interesting at that time. And we could actually reply with accepting what the one they think of, and actually, what Roy says, so well, we'd be more interested in this as well. So you might, out of their portfolio, we might pick 2 or 3 we might be particularly interested to dig into. So that will help them and help us. So they can point out what they're working on and think is very strategic. And we can decide here, well, on their portfolio, we think this is what we'd like to look at. So it's sort of a halfway house. And I think that would actually be more beneficial, quite honestly.
Ask Councillor Duncan what he wanted to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree. I do find, whilst we appreciate the time, it is pretty pointless. They cabinet members come along and give a presentation of what their portfolio consists of. But we're supposed to be scrutinising, and they're not going to come along and tell us everything they've done wrong. We ought to be fine teasing out what's gone wrong, where they're going in the wrong direction, and just sitting through a very long presentation every time. I don't think it's scrutiny. So I do think we need to look at it differently.
So I'm so glad you all agree. But I do think we probably need to spend a bit more time thinking what will work than just trying to come up with something for the next meeting. I don't know if... would it be better not to have someone at the next meeting and spend some time discussing it? And yeah? Okay, thank you. So if people have got ideas, perhaps forward them to Emma so we've got a starting point. point, but then obviously we can build on that at the meeting in January.
Can I just give a quick update as well?
You can.
I was just going to say, it sort of ties into what we've been talking about. So we currently don't have any partners for the next meeting, but I didn't know whether, because we had quite a lot of other items on, whether you wanted to not add a partner for that meeting, not add a portfolio holder, have the sort of business items that we have already, and then maybe just have a bit more of a discussion of how we look at overview and scrutiny in the future, if that would be better. Because we do have one more item that's not on here that we need to bring. So Fran is going to bring a procurement strategy update as well. So there are going to be 3 additional reports that's separate to sort of the normal things. I'm also was going to suggest if we move the effectiveness of hybrid working group a few months down, because we're doing the waste working group, I don't think members or officers have time to do 2 alongside each other, especially when they're both really big topics that quite a lot of information is going to be needed. So with the committee's agreement, I'm proposing to move that down to the March meeting until after the waste working group is finished, because that's a really big one, isn't it, as we discussed the other day. That was sort of all I wanted to discuss, really. So if we have no partner and no portfolio holder for the next meeting, have the 4 or 5 report update items, and then we can have an item to discuss the work programme and how we scrutinise further. Does that seem good? I'm seeing lots of nods. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Brilliant. Is that the last item? Yes. So I haven't been notified of any other business, but has anyone got anything urgent? No? Right. Well, thank you all very much for attending. I will see you all in January. Thank you.